Hey everybody, welcome to episode 5 of our pelvic floor strengthening series. Today we're going to do another standing up exercise to give us some more functional strength for our pelvic floor. I don't want you to worry about balance or feeling like this is something you can't do. I'm going to give 3 different levels. So regardless of your ability to balance or your physical fitness, you can still do this standing exercise as long as you are capable of standing. So I apologize for being a little bit backlit here. I'm at the mercy of the sun, but I am going to move in and out with this shot. You're gonna see a little bit more of my room. And I'm gonna point the camera in a couple of different directions so that you can see what we're doing here. The first thing, I'm gonna push the camera way out just so you can kind of see what the goal is for this activity. It's actually a march. So what we're going to do is use our transverse abdominis contraction to stabilize our bodies, and then use some of the things that we learned in the pelvic tilt and the bridge to lift up our legs like a marching type movement through a lift in the pelvic floor, okay? And what you're gonna feel is that same little lift that you got in the pelvic tilt, you're gonna use to help bring your leg up. So yes, you'll be engaging your quads and your hamstrings and your glutes, but the focus is gonna be in that lift in the pelvic floor. So I'm gonna start by pushing the camera away and I'll show you the main movement, and then I'll bring it in and show you the 3 variations for people with balance issues, all the way up to people who have great balance and are super fit, probably who have better balance than I do. Okay, so now you get somewhat of a frame of my whole body. I'm standing with my feet about hip width apart. The first thing I'm gonna do is contract my transverse abdominis, and when I do that, I'm gonna lift up my right leg. So I'm gonna lift up my right leg, and then put it down on the floor. And keeping my transverse abdominis contracted, lift up my left leg, put it down on the floor, contract my transverse abdominis, lift my right leg, put it down on the floor, contract my transverse abdominis, lift my left leg, put it down on the floor. Now we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty of what we're actually doing here. So hold on one second, I'm bringing the camera back in. Okay, so let's revisit the transverse abdominis contraction. Let's just take a couple of breaths and practice that contraction. So let's breathe in, let's let everything relax, breathe out, and contract in. Breathe in, let it all relax, breathe out, let it all contract in. Great. So now you've kind of remembered what that movement is like. Now we're going to just lift our heels up off the ground. So this is the variation that you are going to use if you have a little bit of trouble balancing. So what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna point the camera down so you can see my feet so that we can get this movement started, and I'll walk you through the lift in the pelvic floor. So as you can see, my feet are about hip width apart. I'm standing on my yoga mat. I'm gonna contract my transverse abdominis. And now I'm gonna just do that slight pelvic tilt where I'm lifting up in my pelvic floor, and I'm just gonna lift my heel up off the ground and then put it back down and relax. Now I'm gonna contract my transverse abdominis again, pelvic tilt, that little lift in the pelvic floor, bend my knee, lift my left heel up off the ground, and then put it back on the floor. So for each side, we have 4 basic movements. You're gonna contract your transverse abdominis, so breathe in, breathe out and contract. Lift the pelvic floor through that slight pelvic tilt, bend your knee, and lift your heel. So you wanna go all the way up onto the ball of your foot if you can. If you can't, if you can just get your heel slightly lifted off the ground, great. And you're gonna work it up so that you get your transverse abdominis, your pelvic tilt, bend the knee. If that's all you can do, great. Once you feel really comfortable with that, just get your heel slightly off the floor. Once you've got that, you can lift it all the way up so just your toes are on the floor. And then roll it back down. Then on the other side, same thing, contract your transverse abdominis. You're going to contract your pelvic floor with that little pelvic tilt. Bend your knee. And then if you can, slightly raise your heel up off the ground. And if you can go all the way up onto your toe, raise your heel all the way up to get only your toes on the floor. And then roll it back down. And this is all you have to do. You can stay right there. You don't have to do any more until you feel really comfortable. Once you feel a little bit more comfortable, we're going to move on to the next step. So the next step is the gentle lift of your foot up off the floor. So not all the way up to the march, but a little bit. So it's just gonna be a back and forth. With the breath out as you put your heel down and do all your contracting and lift up. So you can see there how I'm coordinating my breath with the movement. Our next step, if you feel really comfortable with that and feel like you have a little bit more balance and maybe can go a step further, I'm gonna show you how we're gonna lift that foot just a little bit off the floor. So again, I'm gonna tilt the camera downward. All right, so we're gonna coordinate with our breathing. So breath out and just relax. Take a deep breath in. Contract the transverse abdominis with your out breath. Roll up into the toe as you contract that pelvic floor with that nice little pelvic tilt. And then just lift your foot just off the ground and then place it back down. Breathe in. Breathe out for the contraction, pelvic tilt. Bend the knee, roll up, off the floor, and down again. And you can see I'm tilting a little bit from side to side. The goal is actually to not tilt at all. So contracting the transverse abdominis and the lift in the pelvic floor is going to allow you a little bit less movement from side to side. I would say unless you are a super advanced yogi, which I am not, it's going to be really difficult to not have any movement from side to side, but do your best. And we all get a little bit less wobbly as we go. So the final step in this progression is going to be the march, where we're going to lift our leg all the way up to about a 90-degree angle. And you have to go through each of these steps to get there. You will be able to make it a more fluid movement once you've had practice and you feel like you're on top of your balance, but it might take some time to get there. Even I feel like this is a challenge for me sometimes. Part of it's because my house is tilted, so there's no real flat surface in here, but sometimes it's just because my balance isn't as good as it could be. So your mileage may vary. Let's give it a try. So I'm going to tilt the camera down one more time. We're going to start over. So breathe in, contract the transverse abdominis on the breath out, pelvic tilt, raise up the foot all the way up to that 90-degree angle, and bring it back down. Breathe out, breathe in, pelvic tilt, bring the foot up to that 90-degree angle, bring it back down. And let's just repeat a few times. And you can just listen to my breath and you'll know that when I'm breathing out, I'm contracting my transverse abdominis and tilting my pelvis and lifting up my leg. Here we go. It. So just repeat that exercise around 10 times. So that's 10 on each side. do that once or twice a day and you'll be well on your way, especially if you're continuing to do the other exercises in the series. You're gonna get there and it's going to be amazing. So I hope you all enjoyed this latest video in the strengthening of our pelvic floor series. I hope you will comment on any challenges that you may have found, especially if you have any questions about what you're doing. I'll do my best to answer. And don't forget to subscribe and share so that we can get this information out to everybody who needs it.